and told her that he had been so moved by her voice that he could not rest easy until he had set eyes on her. Soon Rapunzel was no longer afraid, and when the prince, who was young and handsome, asked her if she wanted to marry him, she thought to herself, "He will be more loving than old Mother Gothel." And so she said yes, put her hand in his and said, "I want to get away from here with you, but I can't figure out how to get out of this tower. Every time you come to visit, bring a skein of silk with you, and I will braid a ladder from the silk. When it's finished, I'll climb down, and you can take me with you on horseback." The two agreed that he was visit her every evening, for the old woman was there in the daytime. The enchantress didn't notice a thing until one day Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me, Mother Gothel, why are you so much harder to pull up than the young prince? He gets up here in a twinkling." "Wicked child," shouted the enchantress, "what have you done? I thought I had shut you off from the rest of the world, but you betrayed me." Flying into a rage, she seized Rapunzel's beautiful hair, wound the braids around her left hand, and grabbed a pair of scissors with her right. Snip, snap went the scissors, and the beautiful tresses fell to the ground. The enchantress was so hard-hearted that she banished poor Rapunzel to a wilderness where she had to live in a miserable, wretched state. On the very day she had sent Rapunzel away, the enchantress fastened the severed braids to the window latch, and when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair down," she let down the hair. The prince climbed up, but instead of finding his precious Rapunzel, the enchantress was waiting for him with an angry, poisonous look in her eye. "Ha!" she shouted triumphantly, "you want to come get your darling little wife, but the beautiful bird is no longer sitting in the nest, singing her songs. The cat caught her, and before she's done, she's going to scratch out your eyes too. Rapunzel is lost to you forever. You'll never see her again." The prince was beside himself with grief, and in his despair he jumped from the top of the tower. He was still alive, but his eyes were scratched